a guest speaker tonight before we actually go live into the market. And this gentleman, I had the privilege of meeting this past March, and absolutely excited to know that he's here and he's taking time out of his schedule to be with us this evening. And it speaks to the sentiment of his heartbeat, his mind, and really the skill set that he brings to the table. And this gentleman is just an absolute phenom. He's actually the lead trainer as far as putting all the software that we have as far as the iMarkets Live opportunity in place. He's responsible for all of the technology, implementing, strategizing, and making our experience as traders even more profound. And this guy is just, I mean, this gentleman has been programming literally since he's the age of 5 years old. Hear me well. This guy's been programming since the age of 5 and has matriculated into this space with the iMarkets Live process, and really is the brainchild and the brain trust behind creating one of our favorite tools, which is the Web Analyzer. And folks, for us to have him on this call tonight, the gentleman who actually created this software is here with us. So I want you to pay close attention, open your minds and your hearts. So as I turn this call over to my new friend, my dear friend, and futuristically looking to do some great things together, none other than the Web Analyzer creator himself, Mr. Stephen Hooley. Mr. Hooley, are you on the line?
I am. Thank you for the warm introduction. I hope you guys are having a great night.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So you guys, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but there's some important things I want to cover here tonight. You know, I want to set you guys up for success. Can you do me a quick favor? And if you've got friends, family, you know, people in iMarkets Live, go ahead and invite them on. You know, if iMarkets Live is something you've been wanting to show somebody, you might have somebody in your head, could be somebody you just met. Now's a really good time. I've been told I'm pretty good at presentations. And what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to share with you a little bit about my story, how that brought me to the Web Analyzer, how to set you up for success with the Web Analyzer, and then maybe even a couple other nuggets and future plans. So let's get into that so we don't waste any time. Now, you guys know me as Steven. I've been in iMarkets Live for about a year now. I'm the lead programmer here for iMarkets Live. You know, I kind of manage a lot of the tech here and oversee a lot of it. Now, I've been programming for a long time. My grandpa was a computer teacher, and you know, he introduced me to computers when I was 4 years old. He was an Apple guy, so we had an old Apple computer that he introduced me to, and by the time I was in 5th grade, I was programming. I made a birthday cake website for this girl I had a crush on. Now, I haven't seen that girl or talked to that girl since elementary school, but I kept up on the tech. And it became really an integral part of my life. And, you know, we'll flash forward a little bit. In 2016, my best friend overdosed on heroin. You know, I hope you guys don't mind me getting a little real, but I'm a really genuine person. And I like to share. And if my voice sounds a little off right now, please forgive me. I've gotten a tiny bit of a cold, but I'll try to keep the energy up for you guys. Now, anyway, so when my best friend died, I was already dabbling in stocks, and it just didn't move fast enough for me. It was something that wasn't enough, and I was searching around for stock groups on Facebook and came across Forex. I actually joined iMarkets Live for 3 days, but didn't really feel it at the time and exited the company. But I continued to work myself through the industry. Okay, I networked with a lot of different groups, and I was actually fortunate enough to be able to employ those tech skills I told you about with those groups, and was able to learn enough about the tips and tricks of Forex, because stocks really carries over, a lot of the knowledge carries over to Forex, but there's a few little quirks that I picked up by working with these other groups. And more importantly, I got an eagle's eye view of what was going on in those groups, what people were struggling with, what they were doing well with, all sorts of stuff. And I was able to eventually start my own trading company with my own team, my own education, my own software before I came to iMarkets Live. And it was in that company that the first iteration of the Web Analyzer was born. I had basically kind of discovered, look, I need to mention this as well. From the time I was about 16, I started my business, but I came out of high school going straight into a tech career. And one of the biggest things I learned from working for these giant megalithic tech companies, I've worked for EMC, I've worked for Oracle, was that they love to automate. So when I got really good at Forex and saw what people were struggling with, saw what was going on in the industry, I wanted to automate. I wanted to build something that would help people, okay? So that became the first iteration of the web analyzer. And a part of seeing what was happening with all those people, I discovered some really important stuff. And the biggest key was the psychology. Psychology played a role in the success of all these different people, okay? Now, what I mean by that is when you're entering the market, if your belief level isn't very high in where you're entering, you're more likely to enter or exit out of that trade, probably in a loss, especially if you don't know what you're doing. If your belief level is pretty good in your entry or exit, then you have a higher probability of winning, right? Because there's no guarantees, right? I also discovered things like if you handed the same signal to 100 different people, they all got mixed results. Now, you would think if it's the same signal, the same numbers, just think about this for a sec. Same signal, same numbers, same everything, handed to a group of people. Shouldn't they all get the same result? Well, they don't. That's what I discovered. They don't get the same result. And so I really dove into that and tried to figure out why. And again, it came back to psychology. I discovered that you could give the same strategy to a bunch of different people, and they're all going to experience the strategy differently, okay? They experience the signals differently, the strategies differently. This really opened up my eyes that the current way that a lot of companies in this niche do things is a little bit broken, or maybe we just call it inefficient, right? When you're trying to hand the same thing to a group of people, it just doesn't work for all of them. So when I built the web analyzer, I paid attention to some key things. I studied the markets a lot. I studied volume a lot. So I want you guys to take a guess, and you can put this in the chat. When do you think the best time to enter the market is? There's no wrong answers to this. Usually everybody gets it right, but there's a specific focus I'll point out to you. You just put that in the chat. Couple different London session, yeah. Other people in the past have said support and resistance, different strategies. The answer, you guys, yeah, mid-New York session. The answer, and this might astound you. I hope you're listening and paying attention, maybe take some notes. What I found to be the best time to enter in the market is when the market's moving. Now, let me break that down for you because that might sound too simple. In the markets, we have something called pips. Now, if you're new to iMarkets Live, if you're new to this opportunity, you may not understand what a pip is. Okay? We have an academy that I programmed that will tell you what a pip is, but I'm going to break it down really simple. It's a measurement that we use to calculate a market movement. And if we place a buy and the market moves up, it moves in pips up. And when we get those pips, we make money. In a sell, it's the reverse. Now, we lose money because there is a risk of trading, right? We lose money if we're in a buy and the market moves down, and we calculate that in pips. So what I'm telling you, essentially, is if there's no pips, there's no money, which means the best place to enter the market would be primarily, where is the market moving? Where are the pips? Okay? So that's the core of what the web analyzer focuses on first. It finds where's the market moving, and then I write a whole series of complex things into the algorithm, and it does a whole bunch of other magic stuff, right? So it gets a little bit more complicated than that, but that was the core. Now, what does this really do? We give you a high probability entry point, okay? Now, a high probability entry point, let me share my screen so you can kind of see what I'm talking as I'm talking. These are the high probability entry points right here on my screen. Now, high probability entry points, okay, they basically give you the psychological confidence in the markets that you are entering in a good place, Okay, you are entering in a place that makes sense to get in. That's why we call it high probability entry point. Okay, now that's going to give you your confidence of where you're entering, but that's not necessarily enough. And if you've ever used a signal software or taken a signal or been in the markets, you know that that's not really enough. A high probability entry point, it's just not enough. So what do we do next? Because remember earlier I explained to you how if I give the same thing to everybody, not everybody gets the same result. That's really important. So rather than calculate the stop loss, the take profit, calculate all the numbers for you, the web analyzer starts with that high probability entry point, and then we have over 20 different strategies that tailor to your psychology. You know, Facebook, Google, Apple, they're all aware that each of you have psychological profiles. They're all aware that each of you have unique perspectives and things that make you you. And they capitalize on that. So why shouldn't you be able to capitalize on your own unique psychology, your own perspective? Because like I said, everybody sees the market differently. That's why you can hand people a signal or a strategy and they get different results. You don't see it the same way, okay? But with the web analyzer, those 20 strategies, 20 plus strategies, you pick the one that matches you. Maybe you like the squiggly lines. Maybe you like a naked chart. Maybe you like Bollinger Bands. Maybe you don't. Maybe you like certain times of the day to trade and other times of the day don't work, right? Maybe you like certain pairs. Maybe you like risk and maybe you don't. The important thing is you're unique and the strategies help you tailor every trade you take, okay? They tailor that so that you have a unique trading experience that fits your personal psychology, your risk profile, how you see things. I'm essentially helping you capitalize on your own brain without you really knowing it. We take a $5.3 trillion a day market and we dumb down, because it's complex to analyze, right? We dumb down that complexity into some rules. Those strategies are rules. They could be 5 rules, 6 rules, but they're rules. What time of the day do I enter? What do the squiggly lines need to look like? Are there squiggly lines? Do we check for news? What pairs do I trade? What pairs do I not trade? Right? They're your rules. And when you follow your rules and you stack that on high probability entry points that my algorithm finds with that psychological confidence, you get a little bit of magic. We've had some great results, okay? Results not typical. The results may vary, but we've had people quit their jobs utilizing the web analyzer. I cannot guarantee that will happen to you. I cannot promise that, but I can tell you the potential is there because it has happened. I have had elderly people use this software, middle-aged people use the software, teenagers use the software. I recorded a video with a kid in Florida who was 16 when he started using the web analyzer. He's now 17. He's killing it. He's got a whole team behind it. It's amazing, okay? The web analyzer really focuses on the psychological experience and then puts it into technical terms that your brain can understand, but specifically tailored to you. So to show you kind of how you can get started with stuff like that, when you want to find the strategies or kind of just get started in general, you can click this blue button, this question mark button over here. It's going to take you to the Get Started page. It's going to tell you what you need to know. It's going to plug you into a system, okay? It'll teach you everything. Then you'll find a strategy, okay? These strategies, you pick one, whichever one suits you to who you are as a person, and you apply those strategies. You'll watch them in a video format. These are videos, okay? You'll watch them in a video format. They will teach you the rules that you apply to every one of these high probability entry points. You click this button, you apply your rules. Right now we've got this applied. Maybe you want to use Davin's 4 rules. It was an original strategy and is very popular. Notice the software reconfigures itself. Now there's different things on the chart, okay? The software is going to reconfigure itself to you so that everything's tailored. And then you've got different time frames and a whole set of tools. You guys, this software is something I spent years of my life and sacrificed time with family, friends to bring to you guys. And I only say that because I want you to understand something really powerful. And the gentleman you have on this webinar with you is going to tell you how powerful this really is. Okay, this actually blew my mind because I was already in iMarkets Live. I had already licensed the software to the company. It was already here, and it's going to stay here. I love this company. You got to thank Chris Terry. He's an amazing man, and he's done so much for me and my family, okay? But we're here. I want Gerald to tell you about himself and what he really knows about the web analyzer. Gerald, please.
Well, just to add to what Mr. Hooley shared with you, some of you may or may not know that I had the privilege of doing some consulting several years back with a particular investment banking company, one of the largest investment banking companies in the entire planet. And I had the privilege of being behind the veil and having access to the same analytics, the same software that over 40,000 financial advisors utilize with this particular investment bank. And I don't want to say any names, but this is one of the largest investment banks in the world, and you're very familiar with it if I was to mention that name. And some of you may have heard me say when I say that we have access to the same information as the big banks of the world. This is where I know this is to be true. And these particular software companies, that the software that was utilized, these machines have the same capabilities that will cost anywhere upwards of 20,000+ annually, and what we have the same delivery capacity through the web analyzer. And these investment banks that I'm speaking of, they have over $1 trillion in assets. And for us to have access to the same analytics, the same, and even what Mr. Hooley shared with us tonight, understanding that each particular strategy is going to be tailor-made to you. And I love what he's saying. And that's why we've been so adamant about making sure that we just teach you the whys, and then you adapt and find that particular strategy that suits your personality the best. But folks, I can tell you that this, in comparison, you have the same ability. And that's how we came up with the whole mantra of Be Your Own Bank. That was the thought process why we came up with the movement and how we're facilitated in the manner in which we have, because of that personal experience that I've had from the investment banking side and seeing and being able to go literally around the country and teach over 40,000 financial advisors how to utilize some of the same platforms that we now have at our fingertips. So back to you, Mr. Hooley.
All right, thanks, Gerald. Now, Gerald, are we allowed to say about how much, and now this is figurative, we don't want to say, exactly how much, but just figuratively, about how much do you think that acquisition of that investment bank was made for that software?
Well, easily with that acquisition, that merger, it was well over $500 million to convert from one and merge into one platform. Well over that.
Right. So the smaller investment bank basically merged their platform into the bigger investment bank's platform, right? Actually created an entire platform, because the both platforms were just two totally different software. So they actually had to create an entire new platform, and that's what transpired. And that new platform is what you were training on in your time with these investment banks, right?
That is correct.
So when you were a trainer, you had to have had pretty intimate knowledge about this new platform.
Oh, no doubt. From nuts to bolts, from creating it, it's just amazing to know that, years later, we now have the opportunity to deliver this level of information to families and change and literally teach them how to become their own bank. So as you just stated, I'm so dialed in like never before. And I'm just grateful that we have the opportunity to extend this level of knowledge that lives and families can be tremendously impacted.
Absolutely. And I think it's important people to know, Gerald, what were your words to me in Vegas when I first met you? What did you say when I asked you, how does the web analyzer compare to that software you told me about, that platform you told me about with those investment banks? How does it compare?
It's equal or even exceeding, even with the additional things that you're adding to the platform. So without any fear of contradiction, with the boldness of all the conviction that I have personally, as well as professionally, we're at the right place before time. And once again, I will continually say this: we have access to the same information that the big banks of the world, i.e., the Goldman Sachs, the Morgan Stanleys, the Merrill Lynch's. So one of those that I just made mention was one of those banks that I did this conversion with. So I named 3 big investment banks. So it was one of those 3. So I'm not going to tell you which one it was, but understand Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, and the Merrill Lynch's of the world. So that's what the same level of capacity of input and data research, and now put you in a position of profitability.
That's insanely amazing. Just so you guys know, I vetted all this information because I was a little blown away. So I want you guys to know that, to the best of my knowledge, this is all true. And I'm ecstatic, because what this really means is what I've managed to bring to you guys in IML, what Chris managed to see value in for iMarkets Live, what we have all in iMarkets Live brought to you is essentially on par with what the banks have. Okay, now you heard an approximate price that merger acquisition could have been. I want you guys to know that you guys are paying a couple $100 a month in IML, and the Web Analyzer is a $15 a month add-on. Now, if we break that down, that's 50 cents a day for the Web Analyzer. That's not a lot. You guys probably spend more than that at McDonald's with your children or at the grocery store, okay? So if you're hearing this correctly, you're getting a software that you can access from your desktop or your mobile phone that, to the best of my knowledge, and obviously Gerald has some great experience in this field, is as powerful as some investment banking software. You guys have access to this tonight, right now, on this call. You can be using this. So the real question is, I've just given you a brief overview, right? If you need to know more from here, you can easily go to the Getting Started page. That's imlwebanalyzer.com/get started, right? Get started. Click this link that says join the Web Analyzer Facebook group. This is a big community of users, 45,000 people who are constantly asking questions, who are learning with each other, who are using software, okay? This is a powerful group, is what I'm trying to tell you. Come to this group, ask your questions, figure things out, whatever you need to know. I'm in here, other educators are in here, okay? You also have IML TV full of about, I want to say 6 educators in multiple languages, not just this, multiple languages, who will teach you how to use the software, even help you take some trades with it. That means within 72 hours, maybe more, maybe less, of coming into this company, you can potentially be learning a software that is on par with investment banking software, have your hands, I don't want to say held, but basically have you guided through this process of how to use it, how to learn, how to, dare I say, make money, have some success with this software. That's pretty powerful. Now, learning curves take time. I've seen people take a few days to get in the group with this and start having success. I've seen people take a few months. It's really up to you, but the biggest question is, you have this huge support group. You have this IML TV platform as a part of your iMarkets Live subscription package. You have this powerful software. I want you to ask yourself this one question before we get off this call. What are you going to do about it? Because at the end of the day, you have a choice. You can live life the way you're living. That's cool. I wish you all the best, but I'm hoping that you'll empower yourselves with my software, with iMarkets Live. Teach yourself skill sets that nobody can take away from you. Bless your life, bless your families, and I'm wishing you the best of success, but what are you going to do about it? And with that, I'm just going to leave it with you guys. Gerald, is there anything else you need me to say?
Well, first of all, once again, we thank you tremendously for having the love and compassion for people and allowing yourself to participate and share with those who are guests, those who are business partners, or understanding your total commitment to what we're bringing to the marketplace. And it's just absolutely amazing, folks. And you guys know that we're excited about moving forward BYOB, Billion Bank for Life, and why we are so adamant on making sure that we disseminate this information in the capacity and the manner in which we're doing. And we wanted to just give you this tad bit of information moving into your 2019. And of course, every Thursday night we come out here live to meet and Thursday night is our night where we go live into the market. But I wanted to make sure that you, for those of you who are a part of what we've been doing and those of you who are looking to be a part of what we will continue to do, the validity and the importance of being a part of this wonderful opportunity and things of this nature. And then secondly, I wanted to really accelerate and really help you understand the magnitude of our IML Academy and why we do what we do. So with that being said, we want to go back to our traditional. Once again, Mr. Hooley, thank you for taking time to be with us this evening. But folks, just to have you put this in action, our speaker for the night to close us out for the next 15 to 20 minutes, this gentleman I have the utmost amount of respect for. And just like you that are a guest, prior to being exposed to this information, had limited information, but has taken the bull by the horns and really had just created a true financial paradigm. And I'm excited to call him my business partner. And he's going to close out the rest of this meeting for those of you who are guests, for those of you who are business partners, to understand the importance of being plugged in, staying dialed in, staying connected. So without any further hesitation, I'm going to turn the call over to our esteemed speaker, trainer, extraordinaire, international recording jazz artist, pastor to many, jazz artist to the globe, none other than Pastor Isaac Bird. Pastor Bird, are you on the line?
Ooh, I'm going to sign off, you guys, but you guys have a great night.
Thank you, sir.
So yes, I am on the line. Thank you guys again for joining in. And listen, I've had an opportunity to meet Steve as well personally. And let me tell you, what you just got was really, really phenomenal. If many people you guys know, I'm very, very heavily involved. I love the the web analyzer. That is like one of my favorite tools in the world. And I know one of our esteemed business partners on here, CC Ramsey, will tell you she's in love with it because we went over it several times on our calls, and it is something that you really want to get involved with. So I'm not going to belabor this. I'm going to try to get in here and see if we can do some things live before we get moving. Any trade questions from any of my traders out here? I know a lot of you are guests. I am Pastor Isaac Bird Jr. I'm here in Orange Park, Florida. I am a international jazz recording artist. I travel all over and perform all kinds of different places, you name it. I've probably been on stages with some of your favorite artists or around on the same festivals with some of your favorite artists that are out there if you're a jazz lover. But I also have a background in banking, finance, mortgage, and real estate. And so getting involved in this in January of this year, it has been, I'm no different than any of you. I started off, I had absolutely zero knowledge about the foreign exchange business or how it works or the markets. I had no knowledge at all. And I completely dove into this. I'm continuing to dive into it. And I've been able to amass, and been able to get a lot of knowledge and trade at a great level without, pretty much no problem. So with that being said, tonight I'm gonna see if we can grab some things as we do on our nights. Tonight is one of the nights that we do live in the markets. We're in the market. We're seeing if there's opportunities for us to make money together as a team. And that's what we're here to do. And this is what we do. So right now you see me scrolling the markets really quickly on a particular strategy to see if we can throw a trade in before we get off this call. If you have any questions, any of my traders had any issues this week or questions about trading, please be my guest. Unmute yourself and ask any pieces of information. As you can see right now, I'm on the 5-minute chart, and that's indicated here. You can also see that here on my tab. I'm looking at a particular 2 strategies we use on the 5-minute chart, particularly called the Yum Yum strategy and the Stairway to Heaven strategy. So I'm looking for those opportunities on this chart very quickly as we move on this tonight and seeing if it is possible. This is a used with what we call the moving average type of deal here. So let me see. This one looks like it may be a yum strategy. Let's see. See what happened here. It's open on this part up here. And I may need to catch this one before it gets moving. This one open. So I'm going to show this really quickly so that you guys see how this works. So what I was looking at was seeing where this candlestick opened and closed. It closed down here. What I'm looking for is this particular strategy looks like the yum strategy. The second candlestick confirms the trend as the sell. So what I'm going to do is sell right here in just a moment. Come on. All right. And I'm going to put one trade in here. Now what you're going to see is the first candlestick is the developing the trend. The second one is the confirmation. It closed lower. It started on this side and closed over this side. That is what we are looking for in this particular strategy, for the yum strategy. And I'll take this off so you can kind of see it a little quickly. This moving average of 50 is what we're looking for that cross. Once that happens, and I'm going to create I'm going to go with 8 pips tonight on this one. And then I'm going to do a 20 pip. I'm going to do a 20 pip stop loss. That puts my stop loss up here. And this is the goal that we're looking for. So very simple, easy strategy. We're just looking for a 2 candlestick confirmation. That's what we're looking for. This is one of my favorite strategies because it makes money quickly. Now, for all of you that had joined us a few weeks ago, I talked to you about the trailing stop loss or whatever. That's also one of my favorite things to use. So let me move this out of the way here. And the trailing stop loss, as I've shown you before, how that works is you put it here, your stop goes, and you say you're going to trail. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trail this about 3.5 pips behind where I need to be. So when this gets from this point here to about right here, you're going to see this line jump down in front. So once this red line here crosses over this line, you're going to see that jump down. And what that does is basically when it goes in the direction that I'm looking for, it puts you in a position where even if you were to lose the trade, or not necessarily lose the trade, if the trade was to go the opposite direction from what you were looking for, initially it will put you in a position where you will still win the trade. And basically what you're doing is putting yourself in the profit area. So it's one of my favorite things to use, because if you have to walk away from your chart at any point, this puts you in that position. So I'm going to let that sit there. I'm going to go to another chart, and I'm going to keep it moving. Let's see here. So let's take a look. That one is not doing what I needed. This one is moving in the same direction. This is the franc. The Swiss franc is pushing in that direction, and I'm moving a little slow. So let's see here. All right, so this one is moving a little. I missed the pullback where it was pulling back in this direction, so I'm going to move that. And you see the spread kind of spread it out a little bit. That's interesting how that happened. The spread kind of pushed back on me a little bit, but I'm going to look for this to be that on there. I'm going to modify this. I'm going to do 5 pips on this one. Let's see if I can get that moving. We got two active trades in thus far. The first one's looking real good. And I know I'm moving a little quickly. Any of my traders have any questions? And those of you that are guests, you see that I'm drawing lines very quickly. This is basically the best way I can show you of how effective our academy is. None of this stuff made any sense to me just in January of this year, not a bit of it. But having been got into our academy and gotten this now, it's like, second nature to me. All right. So when this red line crosses over here, it's going to put us in a position to win this trade. All right. So this one is looking good here. We're almost to that point, and I know my good girl over there, Cece, is probably going in. I'm going to throw this in on my live account on my phone, on my other account here, and hopefully you guys are taking advantage of this as well. And let's see if we can grab another trade in just a moment here. Oh yeah, it's moving. It's moving. We'll see what happens with it. And I'm going to grab this. And so we may not get a bunch of trades in tonight just because of the time, but this will give you an idea of how quickly you can make money. And what I tell you, these pips come quickly. And we make money here as a team. This is what we're here for. This is just a quick example of how it works. So these two are looking pretty good. I'm going to let them sit and do what they're going to do. I'm going to move over to our hour chart, and I'm going to look at our trend setter. And these, again, most of most of everything that we do are based off of the moving averages. As you can see, we use the moving average as a part of this. Of course, I've shown you guys in Trading View how to analyze a chart very quickly and put yourself in a good position of success with that. And again, there's no guarantees on this because, again, just like Stephen Hooley said, many of us we have different personalities. Everybody can't handle certain things. Longer trades for some people don't work, because they're a little too anxious. They need the shorter trades, which is scalping. This is what those 2 5-minute charts were about. Let me see what's happening here. This one is going back in this direction. That's okay. Just a little slight pullback. Nothing to worry about. This is the other thing, not getting out of a trade too quickly. Here's the confirmation just in these 2 candlesticks. We've had some pullback against this resistance line, but you don't want to pop out of this trade too quickly because then you'll miss out on getting your profit that you're really looking for. Same thing here. This is pulling back a little bit in this direction. You don't want to jump out of it too fast because you will miss out on the opportunity when it goes in that direction. And let me tell you, this will jump out in just a little bit. Now, we can look at this, the trend setter strategy. Of course, this yellow line is the moving average of 6. This green line is the moving average of 80. We're looking at that. When this particular yellow line or crosses that one, this is showing a trend of an uptrend right now. Basically, this yellow line shows the direction of the trend as it goes. For those of you that are guests and just kind of trying to get an understanding of how that works, this has been quite an easy pattern here. It looks like this is going up. So you can do a couple of things with this. Right now, it's looking pretty solid. And in this case, what I would do personally, just looking at it, I would look for this at a buy, and I would put myself in a position just on following the trend itself. I would put myself down here. look for this to pull back just a smidge in this direction. It's about 5 pips down from where it is right now. And I put myself into what we call a buy limit. A buy limit is where you set the parameters of your trade, and how that works. I'll show you this. The buy limit, basically, you set the parameters in a pending order, and you set it based upon the price. So you say, okay, I want this to be at 1.05000. You set what your volume as far as your lot size, which is also called volume. And I'm going to take the profit for buy. Let's just go with 10 pips. We're going to go with 10 pips. So 1.510. Stop loss, as you know, I do 20. And stop loss, that'll be 0.485. And then you place it. As the commercial used to say, set it and forget it. Draw your lines. This tells you where you got in, where you're getting out. Real easy, real simple, nothing too crazy. So let's see what's happening over here.
Pastor Bird, real quickly,
Yes.
What you just explained is, I know that's always in the mind of many people, with having got to the place where their time is disposable. But can you just kind of, what you just did, you said set it and forget it, and can you kind of speak to the risk management portion that you're doing now? You mentioned the trailing stop loss, but can you really amplify that for our guests so they'll understand that this is not a bit about sitting at the computer, but understanding how what you're doing allows you to continue about your day, even when you're traveling and the things that you normally do in your day-to-day routine?
Absolutely. So the trailing stop loss, again, that's a mechanism for risk management. It keeps you from losing trades that may go, because there's no guarantee. The market does change. It does. Sometimes the market will reverse on you. There's no way to predict that, because sometimes it just happens. There's a bunch of investors out there. They all get in on the same currency pair. Might put it back to a direction you didn't want to go. But with the risk management, the trailing stop loss is one of the best ways to do that, because it puts you in a place where you're pulling yourself into the positive or on the side of winning more consistently. What's great about that is that puts you in a position of success, and it brings your confidence level up. Now, one of the things that I particularly look at as well all the time, again, goes to, for me personally, is I'll put, about setting these things up, setting the risk management, your stop loss, the trailing stop loss. I don't know about anybody else. I'm a very, very busy person. As you, like I said, I travel quite a bit. I get all kinds of things. One of my favorite pastimes is, if you know me personally or just know me enough, you'll know that I love to play golf. Well, if you know anything about golf, a good round of golf is going to take you 3 to 4 hours. So I don't have time when I'm on the golf course to sit and look at the chart the whole time. Now I'm going to enter one trade here just for real quick. But I don't have time to look at the chart the entire time I'm sitting on a golf course, nor do I want to. So what I mean by set it and forget it, I set the parameters, I put those in, and I allow myself to go about my day. Where does that come in? Just like Stephen Hooley said earlier, my confidence is so high because of all the success I've had on the markets. I am able to trade at a high level. I would say right now, personally, if I were to do a percentage on my trades won versus trades lost, I'm about an 85%. Consistently about an 85% on most of my trades. Yeah, you're going to have trades where you lose them in a time frame. You're going to have those moments. There's not one successful trader that hasn't either blown an account or hasn't lost any money. You're going to lose money at some point. It's just how much and how risky you decide to be. But the reality is, there's no guarantee around anything. But these strategies that we use have been proven. So what is my point here? My point is, you can go about your day after setting parameters because you've analyzed the chart, you've looked at it, or whatever the case may be, based upon the strategy, and your confidence level will be high where you can move into that direction. That's how, that works. So many of you may get the understanding or concern like, oh man, how much money would I lose or could lose or whatever the case may be. I wouldn't even look at it like that or think about losing. The best thing that you could do is think about your about how you can get to the point of winning and winning consistently. So I'm going to give you a real quick story. And well, before I do that, Gerald, does that answer your question?
Oh, absolutely. I just wanted folk to realize the simplicity of just diving into the academy, taking advantage of the tools, and now having the capacity and the ability to literally do what the banks do with their money right now that's sitting in their account that are not maximizing their earning potential because they didn't have the information. But now that they have this layer of information, how much fun it is to know that you can literally multiply the money that you have, and while you're sleeping, understand that you can take advantage of the marketplace, the foreign exchange market, and have a forum like this to help you guide you through that process on top of what the IML Academy offers.
Absolutely. Now, I will tell you this, and this is a story I've heard quite a bit, and it's very, very, very relevant to this and very relevant to the conversation tonight. So if you, I don't know if anybody watched the Olympics, but if you do watch the Olympics, there is a ping pong competition in the Olympics. And I don't know about anybody, I was actually pretty cool at, I loved ping pong when I was in college. It was one of my favorite things to do in the student, in one of the student rooms. And the only kid I couldn't beat at the college at the time was this Vietnamese kid. But that's kind of more to the point. This story is about the U.S. The U.S. sent some ambassadors over to the Chinese team. And they were trying to find out, well, how do y'all win every year, every time we get to the Olympics? Y'all just seem to win the gold all the time. How do you do that? And so he's like, and so they asked a bunch of questions. And the question they kept asking was, well, how do you fix the weaknesses of your players? And they said, we don't focus on their weaknesses. We focus on their strengths. And he said, well, how do you fix the problems that they have? We don't focus on the problems they have. We focus on their strength. So if you think about it from what you're saying or what they're saying is, theoretically, we don't focus on what they do wrong. We focus on what they do best and what they do right. And so they focus on their strength consistently to the point. This is where confidence is built. When you got it. There's nothing wrong with getting to the point of understanding where you have. There's nothing wrong with knowing where your deficiencies are, but you focus on the things that you do right and get confidence in what you know. You are in a place that you'll be able to put yourself in a good position to be on a successful side. I'm not a very pessimistic person, but very a person that moves in the place of positivity. So I don't like to bog myself down with negative thoughts because mentality is a big deal, especially when you're dealing with trading. Dr. Bykewood, you wanted to add something? I thought I saw you unmuted, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, sir.
Dr. Bykewood, did you want to add something?
No, sir, that was an accident. That's a great point. I may hit on that later, but thank you for making that point.
Yes, sir. So I just want you guys to understand that your mindset is very, very important. And we've been talking about this. And again, this is one of those things that when I see certain stuff happen, like right now, this trade isn't moving in the direction I desire it to. I could freak out right now and get all in a tensy, but I'm maybe one candlestick away from it hitting my profit. You've got to be in that position to think that way because you know what you've done already. I've done enough trades like this where it looks like this for a while. Heck, I've done trades where this has crossed the moving average, 3 or 4 pips this way, and still came back and hit my profit. The point is, you've got to be in a place of confidence. You've got to have a mindset that you're going to win. Now, if you feel like again, part of risk management is saying, what am I willing to risk when I go take the trade? If you're willing to risk 20 pips or whatever the case may be, then you're good. You say, it didn't hit my 20 pips yet, so I'm going to let it sit, because sometimes it takes a little time. I personally am in a different position than some of you from a trading perspective, and I don't freak out when I see certain stuff happen. So that's all I want to share with you guys when it comes to this. These are the different, we have all kinds of strategies to look at and all kinds of strategies we can do. Let me see if I can hop into the web analyzer here. Just give me 1 second. This is one of my favorite things to use too. I'm going to stop sharing for just a second so I can type in my password. But the web analyzer the same way, high probability points of entry. These high probability points of entry are great. Why are they great? Because they put you in the position to win more consistently. So this was just 5 minutes ago. My web analyzer is set up for the Sharif strategy. This is something I personally use more than anything else. I modified this stochastic to 733. That's how I usually look at it. It's a little bit more. When I look at it, it's a little bit. It works for me. But this was for a potential buy. Here's the entry point, high probability entry point. Real simple. This is the same thing as the trading view. You use that. You go in here and you look at your, what is it, 68, 468 for a buy. Now I'm going to change this color so we can see it. And you can change it here because it's not exactly where I need it to be. 68. This is the probability point for a buy. This happened about 5 to 6 minutes ago. And if you were, because it happened 7 minutes ago, and this was on the 15-minute chart, we're still within that 15-minute for this point here. What would you do at this point? You would put a buy limit. You put a buy limit into your deal here, and I'd say don't overshoot it. 5 pips out of this. But put this as your entry point. Looking at this looks like it's going to work. And this is based upon this particular strategy. It's this is telling me that, okay, this is going to work based upon this strategy. And I would look at it from that perspective, and then you put it in, you say, okay, I got a buy limit. And I know I used to use this a few days ago. I use it for so many different strategies personally. I have several of them, and one reason is because I'm also training you guys. But I use the web analyzer, and really almost 100% of the time, and that's not always the case, but mostly every time I use it, most of these high probability, when I look at what's there and analyze what's there, I usually win every one of those trades. The exit point is really where you've got to figure out what you want to do. Again, as I've taught you before, you want to always have a goal in mind. You want to always have a goal in mind when you're trading as far as what you want to do with your trade. You want to see that trade in a certain place. You want to have a goal in mind with the trade. How many pips you want? You want 5 pips? You want 7 pips? You want 10 pips? You want 20 pips? How many pips do you want out of that trade? You got to have a goal. So ask yourself those questions when you're in there, and then go from that point. But here's the thing: the markets are moving tonight, and there is money out there, and there are pips to be made. So, with that being said, I'm going to be transitioning this call to Dr. Byford in just a moment. Is there any questions from our traders on anything that we talked about tonight, or that we did on here? Any questions? Any trade questions I can ask really quickly, and I'll give about a minute for that to do that. And don't everybody be shy here. I promise you, if you ask a question here, Dr. Byford will probably follow up and go more into depth. So if you have any question, by all means, ask that question.
Evening, sir. This is Michael Griffiths. Can you hear me?
Yes, if you can speak up just a little bit.
Yes, I was just curious about your moving average. Does your moving average give you actual indicator points on where the trend is actually going in the direction, whether it's a buy or a sell when it's getting ready to make that movement change? Can you configure it in that manner?
Yes. So the moving average, for example, like on this chart, it's a moving average of 50 here, and you have a moving average of 3. This 3 moving average is an average that this is basically showing the trend. So how this works is, for these, we're looking for a certain confirmation. So how I looked at this was, excuse me, the strategy I used was what we call a yum-yum strategy. This candlestick started on this side of here, on this side of the moving average of 50. This one, it's sold down, and that's one confirmation. The next candlestick is where the confirmation that we are actually in a sell. So what happens from that point? This one sold down, and it has to close lower than the first. On this particular side, it has to close lower than this first candlestick. Once it does that, we have confirmed that it is now in a sell pattern or a sell trend. So typically what I would say from this point, depending on how far down, I would say that you would put yourself in a position where you would put your line, and I usually use a line here to say, okay, I'm going to look for this to pull back towards this resistance line, usually around here. And I'll use this as a sell limit, and I'll put this as my entry point, and then I'll either take 5 to 10 pips based upon whatever the pair, because each pair does not move the same. Some pairs are more aggressive than others. Some pairs are not as aggressive. So what do? I let that go based upon, I'll make those parameters based upon those pairs. And I would say study, if you're going to start out, I would say study a couple of pairs, not necessarily a whole bunch of them, so you can tell which ones are more mobile. Like I can tell you the British pound and the euro against the US dollar are very, very, they move quite a bit. Well, in those pairs, I usually go for 10 pips. On something like the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc or something else, I may go for 5 pips because I know it's just not as, it doesn't move as extravagantly or hard as the other one. So you just want to make sure that you look at that. Does that answer your question, Michael?
Yes, sir. Thanks much.
No problem. With that being said, thank you guys again for joining us on our Live in the Markets. This has been an incredible year. I've had a lot of fun with you guys. Thank you so much for all your attentiveness and allowing me to facilitate this. It's been fun for me, and I look forward to continuing to do it, and also for some of you to jump up and be teachers as well, so that you all can, it's not just about what I have. Some of you have come into the world of trading at another level as well. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to our host, and we are going to transition the call now to Dr. Byford. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, all those things, and Happy New Year, because I know it is coming up here in just about a week.
Thank you so very much, Pastor Isaac Burt Jr., for that information. And ladies and gentlemen, tonight's call was phenomenal. I just want to thank Mr. Stephen Hooley. I definitely want to thank Mr. Rogers for the call that was put together, and the tools, the resources, the academy, the information that we have at our resources to multiply our money the same way the banks do is phenomenal. It's just outstanding. And that is what this Be Your Own Bank, BYOB for Life movement is all about. And with that being said, it is definitely time to transition this call. It is time for a talk with the finance doctor. This gentleman is documented. We often say success follows success. And he is definitely experienced. He has over 25 years